everybody and welcome back to the Lottie Albert podcast. This is episode 31. It has only been 2 weeks, not 18 months, since I last filmed a video, and yeah, welcome back. And my name is Lindsey, otherwise known as Lottie Albert on Instagram and Etsy, Ravelry, etc. And I am a crochet designer and editor from the Cotswolds in the UK. See, I'm remembering all the things to say now. And welcome back if you're a returning viewer, and a very warm welcome if you are finding me for the first time. I do have 30 other episodes you can go back and watch if you like, but this is sort of podcast take 2. So I have had a bit of a break and I'm back. Thank you all so much for your lovely messages. I had so many messages and thumbs up, and I really appreciated it. If you are new here, you can expect to hear me talking about what I've been working on, new things, and works in progress. I do have a couple of brand new things to show you today, one of which is a pattern, my own design, and shockingly 2 weeks ago when I last filmed, this didn't exist, hadn't made it, hadn't designed it, nothing, and now it is a fully fledged both item and pattern which you can purchase, which, I mean, I'm obviously a new woman because I think that's the fastest I've ever made, designed, photographed, written and published a pattern. And I'm doing the podcast again. Who even am I? So yes, these are the I think I've given them the original title of Rope Rainbow Placemat and Coaster Set. So you can see it's got a rope base, and then this is a DK weight yarn around the edge. Here are the little coasters, and these only use a 4mm hook, which I think is a real bonus about the pattern. And if you are interested in checking it out, I've got it on my Etsy and my Ravelry, although I think I've not quite finalised the Ravelry. Ravelry and I just don't get on. I know some people swear by it, but anyway, it uses a 4mm hook and DK weight yarn, and it's a really fun way to use rope in crochet that's not going to like hurt your hands or absolutely break your back, and they work up super quickly. I have used Rico Rumi spray for this yarn here. I don't know how well you can see because it is around the rope, but the Rico Rumi sprays, which I think are a fairly new yarn, have this slight variegated sort of mottled effect, which I really love. And I did make a brighter rainbow one, but I've left it downstairs, so let me go and get that one. Whew, probably shouldn't have run up the stairs. Here is the brighter rainbow. So you can probably see the Rico Rumi spray in a little bit more detail here. All I did with this one was I changed colour. Really shouldn't have run up the stairs. I changed colour every 2 rows. And this one also had a slightly longer starting chain, which is why it was a bit deeper. So what I've done in the pattern is I've predominantly done it for this shape, but I have also included instructions on how to alter the sort of arch of your rainbow. So it's all to do with the starting chain, so it's really simple to alter. If you don't have any rope, this is 10mm rope, and you wanted to make the pattern, you could also use macrame cord, or I have seen on Instagram somebody used a 5mm cord, which worked really well. You just end up with a little bit more coverage from the DK weight yarn. So yeah, a little placemat and coaster set. I really enjoyed doing a new pattern, and I was a bit nervous when I released it because I haven't really released one of my own patterns in so long. You could also hang it on your wall if you didn't need any placemats but wanted a little rainbow. Obviously rainbows at the moment, I don't know about the rest of the world, but particularly in the UK with coronavirus, people have been making loads of rainbows, hanging them in their windows as a thank you to our NHS, our National Health Service, and also as a fun sort of little walk. If kids are doing a local neighbourhood, we don't really say neighbourhood, but you know what I mean, a local neighbourhood walk, they can spot all the rainbows in the windows. So you could make a colourful one hanging in your window if you wanted to. Not a plug for my pattern, but obviously this is a new thing and it's my podcast. So yeah, this is one of the main things that I've been working on. In terms of other new things, I know in terms of other new finished things, I don't really have anything that's completely finished. So I'm going to talk about this as a kind of a work in progress, kind of a finished object. Gosh, this is smooth today. I think last week's was more smooth. I pretty much just filmed it in one take, which is preferable for editing. I will talk to you about my travelling Afghan, which I did talk about in the last podcast a little bit, but since then I have finished the Tulip Square by Wilma Westenberg. Here it is, it's such a pretty one. This is the tulip stitch I talked about last time. And I have also finished this griddle stitch square. The name of the designer has suddenly escaped me, but I'll put it below. I didn't make notes, apologies. If you are new, I should maybe preface and say I currently have 3 children at home because of the lockdown and coronavirus, etc. And so my brain is generally frazzled anyway, but it's even more frazzled at the moment. So yeah, they're currently out for a walk with my husband. 2 finished squares that weren't finished last week. I also have remade, you will remember I had finished this basket weave one, which was square 1 by 2 of 1s. And I have remade the square that was too large. Where's the too large one? I'll grab at you to remind you. If you watched last time, I had made it and it was too large, and it was way too large, and I am not normally somebody who worries about if things are slightly different or larger or smaller, or if I have messed up the stitches. I prefer to just kind of steam on through and make it work, but even I felt that this was a little bit too large. So this was the size that my travelling Afghan square was coming out. This was the pattern by Lakeside Loops, and this is it remade in I think I went down from a 6mm hook to a 5.5mm hook, but I also took out a couple of rows and just generally paid closer attention and tried to work my stitches tighter. You will also notice in my travelling Afghan cowl, which is still going on, and if you haven't heard of it, I'll put all the details below. You can check it out. It's a year-long cowl with a new pattern from a new designer every 2 weeks. I have added a colour. So the idea behind the project kind of is that they are all textured squares and they are all made in one colour, which I really love. I love one colour, I love texture, but I also really wanted to use stash for this project because I just have way too much of it. And these are the balls I have. However, this one's a different colour. I don't think these 3 half balls or whatever they are going to be enough for me to make 24, 25 10-inch squares and then join them. So I was mindful of that, and I did kind of know that from the start, and I was thinking, well, maybe I can bring in another colour. But what I didn't really want to do was just make... My husband's calling me, honestly, because they were out on a walk and he suddenly started calling me. I was like, oh my goodness, what's happened? Someone's had an accident, I'm gonna have to go and pick them up in the car. No, they're just in the field right the way over the valley opposite our house, and they were waving at me and they wanted to see if I could see them. I can't even remember what I was saying now. I was talking about wanting to bring colour into my travelling Afghan project, and I was telling you that it's a cowl that you can join in with, and the details are below. I wanted to bring colour in because I knew I was going to have to vary up and use different yarns, but I didn't just want to do solid block in one colour, solid block in another colour, because I don't know, I like the sort of subtlety of them being not too tonally different. Anyway, if that makes any sense. I saw on Instagram, I think her name was Finished Object on Instagram, and she had used colour basically like this in one of her squares. In a square like this, she'd done just sort of like a couple of rows off centre in another colour. And yeah, just sort of little touches and little subtle hints of where she'd brought them in, and then kind of key features like this. And I just thought, yes, that's what I want to do. And also it has the very happy unintended coincidence that I can now just use my sample square. If you didn't watch last time, I was actually designer for square number 4, and this was my square, the herringbone stitch, I think we're calling it. And I was saying I've made this, but not in my actual blanket colours. This is the blanket colour, but not my blanket colour. But now I'm going to use it. So I'll show you some of the yarns that I'm going to bring in as and when I need them. This one in particular is a Debbie Bliss Tweed Aran. George really helpfully chewed the name label. George is my 8-month-old, in case you were not aware. So I think, yeah, Debbie Bliss Donegal Luxury Tweed Aran. But am I right in thinking that Debbie Bliss yarns are now not in existence, or certainly they went into administration a little while ago? So I'm not sure if this is one that you can still buy, but I really, really love a tweed yarn. I don't know what it is, I just really love a tweed yarn. So I'm super happy to have incorporated this one. And then some of the other ones I picked out. So this is my sort of original colour. I do also have this kind of pinky colour, which is similar, very similar, but slightly different to my pink. And then, oh, this has got a hook attached to it. But this drops alpaca, how are we saying this word? Boucle? Boucle? It's really fun yarn. I thought maybe this could be an accent. I just don't really know how many I'm going to need. I have a feeling that this is a DK, so this might not work, but it's another nice sort of creamy tweed colour. So yeah, that's my general plan. Bringing in a few different yarns in sort of subtle ways. There's another square I haven't done yet, which has a kind of background and then a sort of raised flower motif. I think that's by Crochet Coco Lee, or Coco Lee Crochet. Oh, I can't remember. I haven't done it yet. But I think I'm going to switch it up and so use one of the sort of oatmeal tweedy colours on the outside and then do the flower in pink. So vary up a little bit, and maybe where there are ones that are a solid stitch repeat like this one, I will do a couple in solid colour, just so that overall the blanket will tonally tone in. Let's go with that. So yeah, that's a current work in progress. Obviously that one isn't going to be finished until December, so I will show you maybe as and when I do new squares on the podcast. But I'm very pleased to now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares finished. I think we are up to square number 9 in the cowl, so I do need to catch up, but I feel like that plus a new project is quite good progress for now. I have also made a small amount of progress on my Wool in the Gang Armada sweater that I was showing you last time. This is the stitch pattern. It's a really pretty arcade stitch. I did talk about it in quite a lot of detail last time, so I won't go over it again, but I am using the Tina Tape yarn in Cinnamon Dust and Timberwolf, and it was a kit that was kindly gifted to me. This is a front panel or a back panel, I think they're the same, and this is how much I've done since I last spoke to you. I will be honest, because I had released this new pattern and I'd been working on this new pattern, this did take up most of my attention over the last sort of couple of weeks. I am very conscious of the fact that my husband would say I'm not a natural starter finisher. And I think it's just because I get too easily distracted and there are always so many other lovely projects to work on and to start. So I've gotten quite into, since the start of the year, oh, that's not even, I don't even think that's the right thing that I'm showing you. I think that's my test. That's my that's my test one. But basically I've only done about 4 or 5 rows. I must have left it downstairs. I'm so sorry. I have one front panel and one back panel which has about 4 or 5 rows on it. So not much to show, but yeah, what I'm saying about being a starter finisher is I read a book at the start of the year and it's called Atomic Habits, so you can go and check it out if you're at all interested. It was a total New Year's Day cliche. I bought this audiobook and I listened to it and it slightly blew my mind. One of those times when everything they say you're like, of course, that makes so much sense, but it's really helped me in terms of how I approach, well, just I suppose everything in life, but also with my crochet. So what I try and do now is, rather than look at things as a sort of to-do list, is do it as more of like a time blocking exercise, or say to myself, okay, well, if I do 2 rows on a whip, then I can do a few rows on this new project or whatever. And that's actually working really well for me to help me finish old projects fully before I start on new projects. So yes, those are my sort of main 2 works in progress at the moment. I thought that I would show you one other work in progress that I haven't worked on in a while, but that was one of the things that I was making in the kind of 18 months where I haven't been filming. So if you have followed me on Instagram, you may recognize this. They haven't posted about it in a little while, and it's basically because I put it in the naughty pile. I got fed up with it, but it is like 99% finished. So I'll show you and you can see what you think. So this is another kit, another garment kit, and I very luckily, happily was gifted it. This time it is a kit from We Are Knitters. And it's for this, the Nolita sweater, and it is a knit kit, no less, sat on a crochet hook. So I was approached by We Are Knitters, I think it was probably this time last year, and they asked me if I would like to make one of their kits. So I said yes, and I thought that I would try a knit kit. So all well and good so far. So this time last summer I was, what are we, May? Summer, so I was 5, nearly 6 months pregnant. So obviously it was summer and I was 6 months pregnant, and I asked if I could try this super chunky jumper kit. But my thinking was, well, if I make it now, it will fit me over the winter when I will no longer be pregnant, because George was due in September, very end of August he was due. So that was my thinking, and I was making it in the summer months when it was super hot, and then I didn't have it finished by the time George was born. After he was born, it was one of the first things that I picked up and started working again on, and I was really enjoying it. And then I think probably after Christmas this year, it was very nearly finished, and then I ground to a bit of a halt because I got upset with it, and I will show you for why. So the idea is, I don't know how well you can see from the picture, but it's quite an oversized, chunky, drop shoulder knit. So it's very simple construction and very simple knitting, which I felt I needed for my first knitted garment I have knit a few things like blankets and flat things, cushions, but I have never knitted a garment. And the pattern uses 15mm needles. Wait till you see the colour. The colour is pretty sensational. You might be surprised by this colour, although actually, given this setup, maybe not. How gorgeous is this? This is We Are Knitters The Wool, which is 100% Peruvian Highland wool, and it's the bubblegum colour. I don't know how well you can see. That yarn is so beautiful. And look how smooth and squishy they are. I don't know how much is on these balls. They feel very heavy. I can't immediately see it. It definitely feels more than 100 grams. Anyway, they sent me everything I needed in the kit. Oh, here we are. 200 grams. They had 200 gram balls. I have knit all the pieces. I have even joined it at the neck and at the shoulders. So, this is it. Are you impressed with me? This is my ribbing. My ribbing definitely needs work because it keeps doing this sort of gapey thing. I'm not really sure what I've done wrong there. I think maybe it's how I'm casting on, but maybe all you pro knitters out there can give me your tips. And I'll put it on, even though it's really warm. So far so good, right? This is the sort of neck section, this is the body. Now, the issue came at this stage when I was just about to join it all together. And I would say I have lost quite a bit of weight since I last tried it on, because I had a baby, and with all my babies, I just put on 3 stone every single time. It just happens. So I have obviously had a baby, and then I've lost that baby weight now. So I think since Christmas, when I last tried this on, I have lost a bit of weight, but it's not, I don't know what you can see. I thought it was going to be more oversized and baggy than this. And I am a tight knitter, and obviously I'm not used to making garments. So I think that's probably the issue here. And I haven't blocked it, so I don't know if I block it. Obviously it's knit, so it's stretchy. And this does fit me, so that's not so much of an issue. But I knit the body in exactly as it said, the right amount of rows. And I knit the sleeves for exactly the right amount of rows. But then when I came to join it, I was like, that is not working. That is not gonna work. If I put this sleeve on, that's just gonna look ridiculous. I've knit it too short. And now that I'm showing you, it doesn't look maybe as pronounced as I remember it looking when I was trying to join it one evening. You know what it's like when you have a very young baby and you're so close to finishing something, and then I was like, oh, I've messed up. I've done the sleeves way too short. And I went back and checked, and I did do the right amount of rows. Look, I had to decrease and everything. So it's not perfect, but I was pretty happy with it. And then it was just so short. And I just felt really deflated, and I felt like an idiot. Anyway, I have since chatted to a couple of my yarny knitty pals, and they have said maybe it should just be a vest. They have said, because I thought, oh, because as well it's because it is shaped, it's not just like a rectangle. I didn't really know what to do, because I didn't know. I thought, well, I can't carry on with the same shaping and add rows. But I have since spoken to somebody, and she has advised me to just add a couple of rows on here and just not shape it, just do them sort of flat. And she said that won't look too weird, that should look okay when you join them on. So that's what I'm gonna do, but I don't really know how to pick up stitches. I did have to pick up stitches around the neckline. I did it around here, and then I did the rib. And And I know I just should look it up on YouTube and just sit down and spend an evening. But like I said, it's just been on the naughty pile. And now the weather has warmed up substantially. This is not particularly weather friendly. Look, it is quite tight. I think it's probably just my gauge. And what do you guys think? Should I just add a couple of rows? Because I don't think if I feel like I'm rambling, I'm so sorry. I feel like you can't block things bigger than they are really, can you? I know it might grow a little bit, but anyway. That's another thing I have been working on. It's been on the naughty pile for quite a few months. And don't the months just pass by when you're not paying attention? So I've probably had the kit nearly a year now. Not a very good influencer. Sorry, We Are Knitters. I do really rate it as a kit. It was super easy to follow, especially with it being my first garment. I just have messed up with my sleeves, and what I should have done is I should have measured them, because all the measurements are in the pattern. It tells you like how long your sleeve should be, so I should have measured it before I took it off the needles. But yeah, I think all I need to do is pick up the stitches and work that out and add a few rows and then join it. Because as I said, it's so nearly finished. I've got 2 sleeves, a front and a back, and it's joined, and I've done the neck. I think I've just got a weird bit here that I wasn't sure if I should have joined, so there we go. Another work in progress for you. Maybe I did find having the podcast, gosh that's warm, I did find having the podcast quite motivating over the last 2 weeks, because I was like, well, I better work on some of my travelling Afghan, otherwise I won't have anything to show them. So maybe now I've shown you guys, that can be my sort of kick up the bum to add a few more rows and join it. So that's probably about it for works in progress. I did have a question on the last podcast about making garments, and somebody said they were keen to make crochet garments but they didn't really know where to start, and did I have any tips? So I was thinking about this, and I think what I would advise is firstly, don't be scared. Maybe go for a cardigan, because they're a lot more forgiving in terms of you don't need, you know, the join. You are maybe making an extra 2 panels instead of 1 panel, but if you go for like an oversized or slightly baggy cardigan pattern, I think that would be a good one. Go for something that's in Aran. I would say chunky, but maybe not now it's summer. I guess depends where you are in the world. Or you could make it now with a view to wear it in the autumn, but definitely Aran or worsted or up from there, because it's going to grow even quicker and you're going to feel a lot more motivated and more satisfied. And go for something maybe in quite a simple stitch, so you're not having to worry about your stitches, you're just worrying about your size. And if you go for something boxy and slightly oversized, the pattern pieces are likely to just be squares or rectangles. So you just make your squares and your rectangles, and then you can even, in order to join them, if you don't like sewing, you can slip stitch seams as long as you don't do them too tight, or a lot of garments even call for sort of single crochet along the seam. And like I said, if you're doing something in a heavier weight yarn, then it's not, you know, it's a lot more forgiving, especially on seams and things like that. And maybe this is a personal thing, I get quite bored or I don't have very good attention to detail if I'm making a sort of big expanse or block of something in the same colour. So maybe when you're looking at your yarns, you could go for a tweed or a variegated, or even like an ombre yarn, because that's going to keep your interest and keep you going over those sort of big patches. I don't know, is it just me, but when a yarn changes colour or there are little bits coming up, that apparently is much more exciting to me than just a solid colour block. So That's another thing I'd recommend. There are obviously kits you can buy from people like Wheel Knitters or Wool and the Gang, who've got really nice modern crochet garments. They can be on the pricier end of the scale. So if you have a lot of yarn maybe in your stash, or stuff that you want to use up and you're looking to buy a pattern, one of the people who instantly comes to mind who does lots of patterns is Iron Lamb on Instagram, and also Cassie, whose book I shared last time, My Crochet Wardrobe. She produces so many garments. She's the Missing Yarn on Instagram, or Cassie Ward if you're looking for her on Etsy or elsewhere. She does loads and loads of patterns for a lot of the Yarny magazines, so she's got a huge array of stuff. Or maybe if you really wanted to make something, you could look for a kind of granny square pattern. There are granny square cardigans or granny square Afghans, because then it's a really familiar stitch. Most people, I think, know and love a good granny, and then it's just turning it into... There are also Afghan style patterns that are pretty much just a big rectangle, which then gets kind of folded over on itself, and a couple of seams added. They're probably some of the most simple construction garments. So yeah, those would be my top tips. Look for a simple construction, something that's boxy or oversized, something that's in Aran weight or heavier, and maybe use a yarn that's gonna keep your interest and make it interesting as you go. And don't be scared, like, you know, what's the worst that can happen? And then once you've done one, you sort of realize how, maybe not easy, but how useful and versatile they are, and you will get the bug to make garments. I don't make maybe tons of garments, but the ones I have made, I get so much wear out of. So yeah, those would be my top tips if you are looking to crochet garments and you haven't done it before. So last but not least is the new things segment of my podcast. I don't really have any new things. There's one thing I can show you, which is some yarn. I have a mustard and I have a pink, and somewhere in here I have a teal. Gosh, isn't this a sunny bright podcast? These are all cotton blend plain DKs from Knitcraft, and I can't show you what I have made with them because it is a project that is coming up soon, and I have a feeling I'm not supposed to show you what I've made. But what I can say is that it is another cowl, so a crochet along, and it is for Granny Square month, and basically I have designed a square, and I am one of many designers that are designing squares for this blanket, and I don't know 100% the details, but they did a similar one last year which I wasn't involved in last year because I think I was just pregnant and frazzled, but they released a new square every day, I think in the month of June, which is when Granny Square, International Granny Square Day is. I think that's right, but I'll put below if it's a different month. And they're all free patterns, and they all use these Knitcraft cotton blend plains, which are all really bright sunny yarns. They're actually really nice yarns to work with. They're DK, but they do call for a 5mm crochet hook. They're 50% cotton and 50% acrylic, so you get a really nice, I suppose hence the blend part of the name, you get a really nice balance of both of those fibres. So you get the kind of the smoothness and the coolness from the cotton, but the kind of ease and the softness, I guess, from the acrylic element. So if you're a 100% cotton girl, then be aware that these do have some acrylic in, but having said that, I do really rate this yarn, and the colours are so fun and bright. So yeah, I haven't actually ended up using this one in my design, but these are the two that I have used. Wow, there's a real theme going on today, completely unintentionally. These are the colours that I have used, and I was actually intending on doing a different design, with a lot of grey in it, but then the grey colour didn't arrive, I think just due to coronavirus and, well, you know, supply lines, deliveries, etc. So I kind of reworked my design, which I hope is okay because Hobbycraft now haven't seen it, but we'll roll with it. Because I was just so inspired by how sunny and bright these colours were. So hopefully I can show you the square maybe next time or maybe in a few weeks, and yeah, then you will be able to see what it was that I am mysteriously talking about, which I hate when people do that. I hate when people hint and suggest and you don't know what they're talking about, so sorry to be annoying. But yeah, I kind of think, I feel like I haven't spoken about very much, but yeah, that's pretty much it from me. The only other small thing I suppose I could talk about is that I have recently started designing projects for a craft subscription box called Craftiosity. And not all of their projects are yarn projects, some of them are sort of clay and paper, but they're a subscription box, so they haven't asked me to talk about it. It's just me thinking about what I've been up to. I've designed one for them recently, which is a little behind the scenes info, like a clay mobile, and the first project I did for them was a macrame bag, which was a really nice one to do. So perhaps I'll share a few more details about projects I've made for those on upcoming podcasts. But if you are on the lookout for a craft subscription box and you felt like you wanted to subscribe to one where I have designed the projects, then please feel free. I will put a link below, and you can go and check it out, or you can just have a look if you want to have a nosy. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. What am I going to be up to over the next coming weeks? Who knows? A lot more of being stuck at home, which I have relaxed into a lot. But you will know how it is, especially if you are in lockdown or quarantine with kids. It's quite intense. We are, yeah, we're muddling through and we're getting there. And obviously my kids are only 6 and 4 and 8 months, so they're loving it. My eldest misses her friends from school a little bit, but I think they're really actually enjoying being together, and we have had really nice weather, so that has made a big difference. On Sunday, so today I'm recording this on Thursday, I'll probably get it up Friday or Saturday. On Sunday in the UK we are supposed to have a review of our lockdown, so possibly there might be some lifting of things or whatever. But does anybody else feel like it's not a kind of easy end to lockdown, is it? Because I still feel a bit anxious about what's coming next, or it's not like we can suddenly rush out and carry on, as life is still going to be quite different. So hope I haven't put a downer on the end of this podcast. I don't really want to talk about coronavirus, but obviously it is happening, and I really hope you are all okay. I'm sending lots of love to anybody who needs it, and yeah, hopefully over the coming weeks we will see things start to improve and get better. But I will be here in the meantime if you want to come and find me over on Instagram. I do tend to share lots of kind of day-to-day stuff and little snippets of like my life with the kids and whatnot. If you're interested in that kind of thing, then it would be lovely to see you over on Instagram. If not, then I will see you back here in 2 weeks time, if not sooner, if I'm able to record anything else for you. I am going to do a special baby makes episode if anybody's interested in that, because I did make quite a few things for George when I was pregnant, and a lot of them are too small for him now, but I thought it'd be nice to talk about those and maybe show you a few of the things that I made for his room as well. So I might try and do a special video all about those, but if I do that, I'll do it as an extra video rather than instead of a podcast. So yeah, if you have enjoyed the video, please do feel free to give me a thumbs up or to leave me a comment, because I love reading your comments. And if you want to subscribe, then that would be wonderful too, and then you will get notified when I release another video. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I feel like it wasn't quite as smooth as last week, but it's a learning process for me again, getting back into this. But I have been looking forward to recording this all week, so I really hope you've enjoyed watching as well, and I will speak to you all very soon. Bye bye.